Tang San. I am a twin martial soul. Protagonist. Coincidentally, I am also a twin martial soul. Tang San. My second martial soul, the lowest soul ring, is 100,000 years old. After the protagonist glanced at Tang San, he summoned his own spiritual gourd, which was at least 100,000-year-old soul ring. Tang San. I have Tang Sect's unique skills, Ghost Shadow, Mysterious Jade Hands, and 100 solutions to hidden weapons. Looking at the hidden weapons launched, the protagonist summoned the flame of Samadhi, and all the weapons were burned to ashes when they approached. Tang San. I still have. Protagonist. There's so much nonsense. Please turn around, baby. Keywords of the novel. Douluo's Lingbao Douluo no pop-up window, Douluo's Lingbao Douluo TXT complete collection download, Douluo's Lingbao Douluo latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Promotion of Innate Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Promotion of Innate Realm. A village near the Star Forest outside Soto City. This village is called Shiryao Village, and from its name, one can tell that it is related to stones and medicinal herbs. Shir is because most people in this village have the surname Shir, while medicine is because the way of life in this village is closely related to medicine. There is a large forest in front of this village, which is connected to the Star Forest. However, there are few soul beasts living in this area, but due to the Star Forest, there are many medicinal herbs growing. And the people of the entire village rely on these medicinal herbs for their livelihood, risking a certain amount of danger. They are the herb pickers in the forest, the pharmaceutical makers who process the medicinal herbs in various steps in the village, and some people who go to Soto City for business. In a deeper area, a young man sat on a boulder, sitting cross-legged on the boulder, in a posture of 5 hearts facing the sky. The young man had a clear and beautiful face, fair skin with a radiance, and it seemed perfectly fitting to describe him as icy and tough. At this moment, the young man opened his eyes, which emitted a sharp light, like an unsheathed sword, piercing into the heart of the person, and the feeling he gave changed. If you talk about a boy who hasn't opened his eyes, it's like a sword adorned with jewelry and a jade pendant. After pulling out the sword, you will find the black blood groove on the sword body and the chilling blade. The young man who opened his eyes took a long breath, and his internal energy, which had been surging due to the breakthrough, also calmed down. The fusion with nature gradually faded away, and the state of unity between heaven and man slowly faded away. Bang! The young man slapped the stone under his body, completely sinking his palm into the stone. When he lifted his palm, he saw that the fingerprint patterns in the discharged fingerprints on the stone were clearly visible, and there were no scars on the young man's palm. After breaking through my innate limitations, my body has also been greatly enhanced. Although my soul power has not increased due to world reasons, both the quality and recovery ability of my soul power have been greatly enhanced. The young man who was speaking was named Tuesday. He was originally a mysterious knowledge enthusiast of Blue Star, who enjoyed collecting various knowledge of Taoism, supernatural powers, secrets, martial arts, witchcraft, and strange things. But while collecting a stone tablet engraved with strange graphics and texts, I suddenly fell into a coma, and when I woke up again, I was already 5 years old in this world. That year, I awakened all the memories of my past life. Later on Tuesday, it was discovered that this was the world of Douluo continent, because there was the Shrek Academy near Soto City. Fortunately, on Tuesday, he also discovered his golden finger and created his own cultivation technique based on the characteristics of the Douluo continent world. Zhou Tian Lian Qi method. A cultivation method created based on the principles of the body's 100 acupoints, the 8 extraordinary meridians, and the 2 bridges of heaven and earth. It is divided into 3 realms. The small Zhou Tian, the great Zhou Tian, and the congenital realm. Each level of this cultivation technique actually enhances the system in which soul power operates within the body, and the transformation of the body. When Xiao Zhou is around, soul power can be constantly generated, bringing changes to the body. During the Great Zhou period, one can open up all the acupoints around the body, creating a cycle between oneself and the world that greatly enhances the quality of one's soul power. At the same time, it washes out one's body, enhancing potential and affinity for soul power. When reaching the innate realm, in addition to the strengthening of soul power, the body also undergoes transformation, and the spirit can be integrated with heaven and humanity. Tuesday, who had collected his internal skills, stood up and looked up at the sun rising from the east. It's time to go back. Then he jumped off the stone and picked up the herbal basket next to him. Just as he was about to pick it up, he suddenly felt movement coming from behind. Looking back, a lone wolf ran over from afar. I scattered medicine powder around to dispel soul beasts. Why did this lone wolf run this way without looking back? Watching the lone wolf come running over, Tuesday frowned and decided to wait for it to come over before killing it to prevent it from harming other people in the village. Just as the lone wolf was less than 10 meters away from Tuesday, the wolf jumped up and opened its jaws, biting towards Tuesday. De Bei Shou. Looking at the nearby fangs, Tuesday slapped the entire wolf's head flat with one hand, and the whole wolf fell directly to the ground. The body of this lone wolf emitted a white light, and then slowly a white soul ring floated out. Tuesday did not see this soul ring, but packed up and prepared to return to the village. Boom boom. At this moment, there was a violent noise coming from afar, and the sound was getting closer and closer. After looking around on Tuesday, he sprinkled a spray of medicinal powder on his body, and a few jumped and hid in a nearby tree. At this time, Tuesday observed the lone wolf and discovered a wound below its neck. Did he run this way because he was being chased? At this moment, a huge python also appeared before Tuesday's eyes. The scale of the python was pitch black, with 3 triangular protrusions on its head. When it came to the side of the lone wolf, it surrounded it and kept spitting messages at its body. Evil Earth Python. In 1385, with earthy attributes, a hard body, immense strength, extreme hatred, timidity, and caution. After checking the information of this soul beast on the tree, Tuesday figured out why it ran here. Extremely vengeful, no wonder he pursued him here, but the lone wolf has already died. He should go back, right? At that moment, Tuesday suddenly felt unwell, turned around and kicked his feet, then jumped to the side. Bang! The snake tail struck directly at the original location on Tuesday, and the entire tree head was cut off. Subsequently, his entire body curled up and a catapult hit Tuesday, who had just stood up. On Tuesday, he dodged the attack by turning sideways in the direction of the wind. Bang! The entire snake head collided with the rock, and the shattered rock buried the evil soil python. It lifted itself from the gravel and turned its head. De Bei Shou. On Tuesday, this palm directly hit the eyes of evil Earth Mang, but was timely dodged and only hit on the head. Boom! The whole head was hit directly on the ground, and the tail of the python also swung over. A side body dodged and pushed back on Tuesday. Looking at the slowly rising evil soil python, Tuesday frowned. The defense of this evil earth python is too high. My attack doesn't break through the defense at all, and its straight line speed is also very fast. I can't run away at all, and I even hold a grudge. Tuesday carried his right hand behind him and watched the evil earth python thrust forward. However, less than 10 meters away from Tuesday, he suddenly lowered his snake head, bent his body, and threw his tail towards Tuesday. Watching the evil earth python suddenly change its moves, Tuesday was very surprised, but there was no time to think. Just as its tail approached, a sticky flame appeared in the palm of its right hand, like magma. A large tombstone patted the approaching tail. Boom! With a loud bang, both sides were bounced off the ground. On Tuesday, who was standing firmly on the ground, a green flame appeared in his left hand. He sucked out the green light dots towards a large tree, which drifted into the flames and integrated into Tuesday's body. And the blood-drenched right hand in the impact was gradually repaired. Tear, tear, tear. At this moment, the python rolled violently, and its entire tail was burned to ashes. Suddenly, the python catapulted and ran towards the distance. We can't let it run. Tuesday, who saw this scene, quickly chased after the python. After only a few jumps, the python disappeared, but the intense exercise caused the burnt wound to crack and fresh blood to flow to the ground. Following the traces of blood on Tuesday, I kept chasing forward, but after running for a while, I stopped and looked at the increasingly dense forest ahead. If we chase further, we will reach the starry forest, which is too dangerous for me. Looking at the forest ahead, Tuesday thought to himself. It just discovered that I should be a snake's thermal sensor. Thinking of this Tuesday, I returned to the place where I had just fought, picked up the back basket containing herbs, found a small river, jumped directly into it, swam forward for several tens of meters, and finally took off my clothes. Summoning fire from the stone with your right hand, the high temperature quickly dried the clothes. After getting dressed again, I took a look at the sun on Tuesday. Damn it. We need to go back quickly. After finishing speaking, last night I carried a medicine basket and ran towards the village. After running for a while, he ran out of the forest, then slowed down and walked towards a courtyard on the edge of the village. Tuesday. I'm back from picking herbs. Why are you so late this time? You're running deep into the woods again. It's too dangerous. Seeing a robust young man walking towards him, Tuesday stopped and answered. Nyo-gu, there's nothing left. I fell all over mud while digging herbs, so I only came back after taking a shower. Sure. Ernio looked at Tuesday's clean clothes and shook his head, saying. Well, you have your own ideas, but you should be more careful, whether it's your brother or sisters. We don't want anything to happen to you. Then he took out a bag of copper soul coins and handed them to Tuesday's hand before saying. Your meal expenses for this week will be covered by our family. Take it and I'll leave first. Tuesday, who received the copper soul coin, immediately said if he felt something was wrong. Nyo-gu, you gave too much. If there's more, I'll improve the food for you. Without looking back, he walked up to Nyo-gu and shouted at him on Tuesday. Thank you. Nyo waved his hand and walked towards the medicine field. After watching Nyo-gu walk away, Tuesday walked towards home. After walking to the door, I heard a soft cry and quickly opened the door. I walked in and saw a group of children comforting a little girl. The little girl burst into tears after seeing Tuesday. The little girl ran over and hugged Tuesday's leg pain, crying. Arya, what's wrong? Don't cry, don't cry. Tuesday quickly comforted Arya, who cried and said to Tuesday. I thought my second brother woke up like his parents and disappeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Golden Finger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Golden Finger. Tuesday touched Arya's head and said. No, my brother will always accompany you when you grow up. Be good, don't cry. With Tuesday's calming, Arya gradually calmed down, and then Tuesday sat with her at the dinner table. The remaining children also walked over and sat at the table, watching these people say on Tuesday. Let's eat it all. If I come back later, you can eat it first. Second brother, you risk your life every day when you go to pick herbs. We're just starving, it's okay. Yes, second brother. Alright. Alright. Let's eat first. Looking at these young boys who were younger than him, Tuesday thought of a year ago again. At that time, Tuesday did not awaken the memories of the past life, and there was still a complete family, right next to Shiryao village. Jojia village, as well as several other villages like Shiryao village, are all villages formed by the medicinal herbs in this forest. The ancestors of Jojia village and Shiryao village came here together to establish the village. Zhoujia village is skilled in making medicinal herbs, while Shuyao village is skilled in processing medicinal herbs. But just a year ago, all of these were changed. A severely injured evil soul master ran here, preparing to slaughter the people of these villages, using his blood to recover his injuries, and then ran to hide in the Star Forest. But he underestimated these few villages, where each village has a soul master, and among them, Zhoujia village and Shuyao village have the existence of soul masters. In other villages, although having a soul master, this evil soul master is the soul king, and even if seriously injured, it is not something these soul masters can compete against. In a short period of time, these villages were completely slaughtered. When I arrived at Zhoujia village and saw that it was the soul master, I directly killed other ordinary people. As the village head, the soul master was unable to stop this evil soul master. Even if the village chief of Shuyao village discovers something wrong and rushes over, it will be of no use. The two soul sovereigns cannot make up for the gap with the soul king. When the martial soul hall arrived, the two village chiefs were completely propped up with perseverance. After the battle ended, the two village chiefs also died one after another. These children and Tuesday are the surviving teenagers. Second brother, this is the remaining money this week. At this moment, an ordinary-looking boy next to him handed over a small bag of money. The boy's name was Zhou Yuan, and he was also a survivor of Zhoujia village. He was 6 years old this year and 2 months younger than Tuesday. After reaching out to take the money on Tuesday, he looked at it with some confusion and said, "Why is there so much left?" Upon hearing Tuesday's question, Zhou Yuan replied, "Uncle Shirtong from the village grain shop only received half of the money for the grain he bought us." After listening to these words, Tuesday looked at the money bag in his hand and fell silent for a moment before speaking to these teenagers. We must remember these favors in our hearts and never forget them in our lifetime. The young people who were eating nodded when they heard these words. Tuesday looked at several 6-year-old teenagers and said, "How long does it take for you guys to complete the forging fist technique?" "An hour and a half. 3 hours. 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. 50 minutes. After hearing these words, Tuesday nodded and said, "Zhou Yuan. Zhou Shan. Both of you can complete the forging fist technique within 2 hours, and from now on, you will be responsible for other people's household chores. After you two complete the forging fist technique, go chop firewood for the people in the village and chop enough firewood for one household every day." "Okay, second brother." At this point, I had almost finished my meal. On Tuesday, I got up and returned to my room, took out a book, and handed it to Zhou Shan. After Zhou Shan took over this book, he saw that it was written Body Refining Fist Technique 2. This is an advanced version of Forging Body Fist Technique. You can now shorten it to less than an hour. From now on, after practicing Forging Body Fist Technique every day and completing all the tasks, try practicing this technique. Until you can fully master this boxing technique, or your body forging boxing technique can be shortened to half an hour, then switch to this boxing technique. Zhou Shan looked at the fist technique in his hand, nodded, and said expressionlessly to Tuesday, "Brother. Are there still 3 and 4 left?" "Only 3, no 4. Also, come find me when you want to practice this boxing technique, and I'll teach you hand-to-hand first." After nodding, Zhou Shan said, "Okay, brother. I'm going to practice martial arts." After nodding on Tuesday, he looked at Zhou Yuan and the remaining teenagers. When your time is shortened to within an hour, you can also start practicing this. After the boys nodded, they began to busy themselves. And Tuesday also picked up the herbs he had collected and began to prepare them. Just starting to think of other things in my heart. Although I didn't travel with various martial arts secrets like Tang San did, I brought that stone tablet over. Golden Finger. Boundary Monument. Ability. Crossing the world, name, number. Crossing the world. Traveling through the world with the power of the source. Name. Any emotion generated by anyone who knows your name and knows everything about you can be transformed into the power of name, which can be transformed into a source. Source power can be divided into small source, big source, and origin. Source power can strengthen the quality of the soul, and any soul-type ability can be strengthened. Title. Title, posthumous title, life and death events, all deeds, compliments and influences from others on you are transformed into titles. Depending on the deeds and titles, you have different abilities. Martial soul. In the process of conception, at the boundary marker. Boundary monument. Unknown. With the ontology as the boundary, it can fix the space and display the positions, names, and life experiences of all people in the space. Title. Transcendent, strange soul, innate life, Transcendent disabled. The question, transcendent, that a great life sends out after noticing you forms a title of disability, which can break free from limitations. The stronger the limitation, the more effort is required. Strange soul. Disabled. A great life, upon noticing your exclamation, what a strange soul, the power of this sentence directly forms an incomplete title, making your soul particularly transparent and giving you a certain chance of entering an enlightenment state of unity between heaven and humanity. A great life noticed your words and said, companion spirit treasure. Congenital life. Then it transformed into a big hand and grabbed you. The power of this sentence has been transformed into a complete title, causing a change in your life state, constantly nurturing and nurturing. Source. Small source. 1.35%. Big source. 0 main source. 0, the titles are divided into 6 levels. Lower level, higher level, world.class, great thousand level, ancient, and origin. The Zhou Tian Qi practice, Samadhi true fire, and various body training fist techniques on Tuesday were all achieved through the use of the ability of the strange soul residual. But because this title is incomplete, there is a cooldown period after each enlightenment state. Depending on the duration of the enlightenment, the depth of the enlightenment realm, and the duration of the cooldown also vary. When suddenly realizing the Zhou Tian Qi refining method, the cooldown time reached 180 days. Fortunately, the sudden realization took more than 100 days to cultivate the soul power in the body to the bottleneck, and after more than 200 days, the cultivation reached the innate realm. These should all be the combination of the effects of strange soul disability and innate life, which allowed Tuesday to quickly cultivate to the innate realm. Just 3 great lives, seeing my journey through time gave me 7 small sources, but in these 6 years, it only increased by 1.35%. The people who can significantly increase the power of the source are either those with relatively high essence or an extremely large number of people. On Tuesday, he put the medicinal herbs in his hand into the bamboo box and continued to ponder. The only thing left that meets these conditions is the mainland elite soul master competition. Based on my observations from Shrek College, I should be the same age as Tang San. So participating in that competition. If I win the championship, my income should be the highest. Tang San, as the son of luck, should be extremely high in essence, and other people in the 7 strangers of Shrek are important supporting role. In addition, the golden generation of the martial soul hall and the crowd following this game. As long as I can win the competition, should I be able to receive a new title of number 1 in the world or ultimate pride. There is still a lot of primordial power. As long as there is one great power, I can safely traverse, and 10 small sources can combine into one great source. Just then, a sound suddenly came from outside the door. Dong! 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 Berlang! Are you there? Upon hearing the shouting, Tuesday quickly walked out and saw a robust middle-aged man standing outside the door. Uncle Air. Seeing Sher Eru on Tuesday, he walked into the door and pulled out 2 big roosters from behind, then said. Erlang, what do you think I brought you? Watching 2 big roosters on Tuesday, he said to Sher Eru. Second uncle, I just bought an old hen last week, and this week you bought a big rooster. If you buy like this, my aunt will tell you. After finishing speaking, he wanted to return the big rooster that was handed to him, but was grabbed and pressed down by Uncle Air. Don't worry, your aunt won't say anything. All right. Don't say that anymore. I still have some business to attend to today. You can't keep me from entering the house, can you? On Tuesday when he heard this, he quickly brought Uncle Eru into the room and poured a glass of boiling water. After taking a sip of water, Sher Eru said to Tuesday. Erlang. Are you, Ashen, and Ayun all 6 years old this year? Yes, second uncle. The steward of the Soul Hall in Soto City will arrive in the village tomorrow. The 3 of you will call on other people of appropriate age and gather at the village head early tomorrow morning. Okay, second uncle. This book is an introduction to the awakening ceremony, all 3 of you should take a good look. After watching Tuesday reach out to take the book, Sher Eru stood up and said. All right. I'll leave first. Your younger brother Xiaohu is clamoring for candy, so I need to go buy it for him quickly. After finishing speaking, he waved his hand and walked out. Uncle, take your time. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Awakening Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Awakening Martial Soul. Returning to the room on Tuesday, looking at the book in hand, I thought to myself. The awakening of the martial soul, the innate full soul power can already be determined, and it is still a dual martial soul, but the quality of the martial soul is still uncertain. I hope that the quality of the martial soul will be higher by then, so as to save some of the original power. After all, one person cannot participate in an elite competition. On Tuesday, I looked at Zhou Yuan and Zhou Shan who were practicing martial arts in the yard. In Ayun and Ashen's bodies, I can sense the feeling of soul power. Without any surprise, they should have soul power, so there are 3 people. There is no comparison now, and it is impossible to determine how much elemental power can be obtained from the elite soul master competition. The consumption of elemental power needs to be controlled to a certain extent. 3 or 4 small sources, even if we cannot gather all 7 people, we cannot excessively consume small sources. After all, it is still unknown whether we can generate titles or how many small sources we can obtain. Tuesday suddenly shook his head while thinking about these things. What are you doing with so much thought? Even if there aren't enough people, what's going on? With my current innate cultivation speed, it's more than enough to become a soul king in 8 years' time to reach level 50. Besides, I already have some ideas about the innate realm behind me. When the time for enlightenment cools down, I can create the following realm. At that time, I can reach the level 60 Soul Emperor. Even if there are a few members in the team who are recharged, whether it's the Martial Soul Hall or Tang San or the others, I can still win. The next morning, early Tuesday, he took Zhou Shan and Zhou Yuan, who had reached their age, to the village to wait for the deacon of the Martial Soul Hall. Second uncle. Village chief. On Tuesday, they and the other teenagers called out separately. After seeing Zhou Yi and the others, Sher Eru nodded and continued to wait here. After a while, a carriage gradually drove over from afar. After stopping at the village head, a young man got off the carriage. After seeing the young man, Sher Eru walked up and said. Is this the deacon of the Martial Soul Hall? Welcome to Shiryao village. The young man who heard this sentence waved his hand and said. Mr. Sher, you're welcome. My name is Qin Zian. Like you, I am a soul lord. Don't call me an adult. Sigh. It's different, it's different. I'm almost 40 years old and have just ascended to the soul lord. You're only in your 20s, how can you be like me? Upon hearing Qin Zian's words, Shi Eru quickly smiled and said it. After hearing these words, Qin Zian smiled and said, Chief Shi praised me. Let's go to the martial soul hall in the village first and awaken the children's martial souls. Then he led the village chief and these children towards the martial soul hall in the village. After arriving, Shi Eru said to Qin Zian, Deacon, the children will be handed over to you. After nodding his head, Qin Zian led the children into the stone-made martial soul hall. After entering, Qin Ziran asked these children to stand up one by one, then took out the awakening tools and arranged them, and said to these children, My name is Qin Zian, level 32 Soul Lord, and I am your guide. Don't be afraid of anything that happens later, come up one by one. After speaking, he gestured for the first child to stand up and then, just as the child stood up, Qin Zian let out a low roar. Cheetah, attached. As the words fell, a phantom of a humanoid cheetah enveloped Qin Zian. Despite seeing these children, although somewhat scared, they still stood still in place. On Tuesday, who was in the back row, looking at the three halos rising from Qin Zian's body, I secretly thought to myself. White, yellow, and yellow are not the optimal configurations, it's just that we don't know the year. Close your eyes and carefully sense. Qin Zian said to the little boy standing in the black stone. Then the light slowly rose and a small shovel appeared in the boy's hand. Looking at the small shovel in the boy's hand, Qin Zian said to him. Your martial soul is a weapon martial soul, but the attack power of the shovel is indeed somewhat weak. Let me see your soul power. Then he took out a blue crystal ball and handed it over, saying to the little boy. Come and put your hand on it. The little boy reached out his hand and placed it on top of the crystal ball. After a while, without any reaction, Qin Zian shook his head and said. Without soul power, one cannot become a soul master. Next. After speaking, let the little boy go down and replace him with the next person. Medicine pestering stick, no soul power, next one. Sandpot, no soul power, next one. Stick, soul power level 1, next. Who? Taking a breath, Qin Zian looked at the dozen or so children who had already awakened and thought to himself. There are only 2 with soul power, but fortunately, it's better than none at all. There are only 3 left. Hold on a little longer. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, Qin Zian said to Tuesday. Come on, it's your turn. On Tuesday, I walked into the middle of the stone, and a golden light enveloped my whole body, driving the soul power I had cultivated inside. These soul powers slowly circulate within the body, and the martial soul nurtured within the body also awakens after absorbing the soul power. Then a golden light appeared in Tuesday's hand, and a golden 9-story pagoda appeared in Tuesday's hand. The entire tower body was semi-transparent, like amber. Seeing this pagoda, Qin Zian was somewhat excited, with a face full of excitement. Most of the martial souls in the shape of pagodas have strong abilities. It's like picking up treasure, picking up treasure. Qin Zian, thinking in this way, quickly said to Tuesday. Children, come and try your soul power. Qin Zian quickly handed the blue crystal ball to the front of Tuesday, and finally placed it behind it on Tuesday. Then the blue crystal ball emitted a blue light, which filled the entire room. The crystal ball was like a ball of light, emitting a dazzling light, with a blue halo surrounding it. Innate full soul power, this is innate full soul power. Qin Zian was very excited as he watched this scene, and then quickly withdrew the blue crystal ball, thinking excitedly as he watched Tuesday. Innate full soul power, or a pagoda-shaped martial soul. Is it another type of 7 treasures glass pagoda? Thinking of this, Qin Zian smiled warmly and said to Tuesday. Child. Do you feel any ability in your pagoda? Looking at Qin Zian with a smile on his face, Tuesday shook his head. No. How could it not be? Is it necessary to input soul power to manifest the type? After thinking for a while, Qin Zian continued to smile and say to Tuesday. It's okay, kid. Then try inputting soul power into your martial soul and give it a try. Tuesday nodded and then pretended to be very difficult to input soul power into the martial soul. After a few seconds, soul power was input into the martial soul. Subsequently, the entire room was instantly shrouded in mist, and Qin Zian's eyes, shrouded in mist, were only white, unable to see anything else. Take down your soul power, hurry up. Qin Zian, shrouded in mist, quickly said. Then the fog dissipated, and Qin Zian quickly looked at the other children. When he saw these children, nothing happened and he frowned. Do you have any other feelings besides being invisible? No. Listening to these children's answers, Qin Zian asked with some reluctance. Do you feel a little stronger? You feel a little better? Or something like pain, dizziness, and so on. The children who heard these words looked at each other and shook their heads without saying anything. It shouldn't be. A martial soul full of soul power. It's impossible to only make people invisible. Qin Zian, who was puzzled by his thoughts, looked at Tuesday and asked again. What did you feel just now? Can you see us? How was the consumption? You can see it. There's no other feeling. The consumption seems to be a little bit. Upon hearing Tuesday's answer, Qin Zian frowned and thought to himself. Is this innate full soul power only making his consumption very low? It's impossible. The speed of the fog spreading just now is very fast, it should be limited by the house, and the range should not be limited to the size of this room. Thinking of Qin Zian here, he suddenly shook his head. What if the range is large? This ability can only isolate the line of sight, and there is also sound to determine the location. The defect is too big. Although the cultivation value is not significant, at least it is full of soul power. Qin Zian, who thought of this, said to Tuesday. Would you like to join the martial soul hall? Upon hearing Qin Zian's invitation, Tuesday pretended to hesitate for a moment before saying. I want to stay in the village. Upon hearing these words, Qin Zian didn't react much, but asked. Do you have a name for your martial soul? Linglong Pagoda. Upon hearing these words, Qin Zian readily agreed and thought to himself. Linglong Pagoda, I think Mist Pagoda is similar. It is naturally full of soul power. After returning, submit this information and let those above decide for themselves. Then he glanced at Tuesday and waved his hand, saying. Next. Upon hearing these words, Tuesday walked on and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Why did this guy ask so many questions? But fortunately, he finally managed to get by. Then on Tuesday, I used the boundary marker to inspect the martial soul. Linglong Pagoda. Mist, swallow spirit, melt spirit. Although there is no introduction, only some tags, you can also get a rough idea of the ability from these tags. Mist already knows what ability it is, and devouring and merging spirits should be the ability to devour and merge souls. However, these two abilities have not shown significant performance, and they should only be demonstrated after obtaining a soul ring. And on Tuesday, one can feel that although the martial soul has awakened, it has not fully formed. As long as one obtains the soul ring, it is possible to use Xiaoyuan to strengthen the essence of the martial soul. By then, these existing features should be strengthened, and even new ones. And seeing the appearance of his martial soul, the first thing that came to mind on Tuesday was the Linglong relics of the Rui Pagoda of the Toda Heavenly King Li Jing. Legend has it that the pagoda possesses the ability to collect demons, suppress ghosts and demons, and possess unparalleled power, capable of subduing all demons and monsters. If we were to evolve towards this direction after strengthening, there wouldn't be many martial souls on the entire continent who could match that intensity. Even if I don't evolve in this direction, I still have a stronger martial soul. Thinking of this Tuesday, I looked at another martial soul. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Powerful Gourd-Shaped Martial Soul. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4. The Powerful Gourd-Shaped Martial Soul Lingbao Gourd. The Gourd space nurtures Lingbao. These two tags represent two abilities respectively. The Spirit Gourd, a martial soul, has the ability of space. There is a table-sized space inside, and this space can also increase according to the increase of soul power. The gourd is also filled with a kind of treasure energy, which is the key to nurturing spiritual treasures. Now only one main material is needed to nurture spiritual treasures. It should be the soul ring. Now, as long as the Lingbao gourd obtains the soul ring, it will nurture the Lingbao based on the soul ring, Thought Tuesday, sensing the Lingbao gourd. It's a perfect second martial soul. While thinking about these things on Tuesday, the awakening ceremony did not stop. The golden light shone brightly, and 10 beads appeared in Zhou Yuan's hand, forming a circle and lying in his heart. 10 separate beads, this type of martial soul, as long as it has soul power, most of them have auxiliary abilities. Let's first see if it has soul power. Qin Zian became interested in watching this martial soul, glanced at the blue crystal ball, and said to Zhou Yuan. Come on, reach up and test your soul power. Zhou Yuan reached out and placed his hand on top of the blue crystal ball, and then the blue light lit up. This light was not very eye-catching, but it also illuminated their faces. Well, level 6. It's okay. Children. Do you feel anything different about these 10 beads? Zhou Yuan reached out the hand holding the beads, and then the 10 beads slowly floated up. They can fly. Watching the beads slowly floating up, Qin Zian frowned. Then he took a step forward and grabbed the bead, saying to Zhou Yuan. Try again now and let it fly. Upon hearing this sentence, Zhou Yuan attempted to make the bead in Qin Zian's hand fly. Qin Zian, sensing the power in his hand, frowned tighter and tighter. The power is very small, whether it's flying with people or attacking with this kind of power, it's impossible to achieve it. And the texture is also very fragile. Qin Zian shook his head as he pinched the beads with his hand. Another useless martial soul. Next. Next. Qin Zian waved his hand and urged Zhou Yuan to hurry down. After all, there was only one person left. After finishing it, he quickly went to the next village and didn't waste time here. At this moment, Zhou Shan, who was standing at the end, also walked over and stood among the black stones. As the dazzling light emitted, a wooden spear appeared in Zhou Shan's hand. The entire gun body is 2 meters long and is made of wood, even the tip of the gun is made of wood. The weapon and martial soul are just wooden, but their attack ability is not very good. Let's take a look at the soul power. After finishing it, I can go to the next village. Qin Zian handed the blue crystal ball to Zhou Shan in front of him. Zhou Shan reached up and placed his hand on top of the blue crystal ball. The blue light, although not very dazzling, also illuminated the entire room. 8th level soul power. My child, your innate soul power is level 8, which is a rare genius. On behalf of the Martial Soul Hall, I invite you to join. Qin Zian, who had finished speaking, waited for Zhou Shan's response, but an awkward thing happened. Zhou Shan stood there without saying anything. Child, you may not be familiar with the situation. You have level 8 soul power and are indeed one of the few geniuses. But even geniuses need sufficient growth to become strong. And sufficient growth is the soul ring. Only by obtaining the optimal soul ring configuration can you grow into a strong one. The optimal soul ring configuration is yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red. Qin Zian patiently explained as he looked at Zhou Shan, who was still indifferent. You may not know what this represents, but I can tell you that your village chief can only deal with the soul beast represented by the yellow color. And purple, your village chief can only protect himself and cannot help you obtain such a soul ring. However, the martial soul hall is different. With your innate level 8 soul power, when you obtain several soul rings in the early stage, you will directly send the Soul Emperor and Soul Saint to protect and help you obtain the soul rings. In the later stage, we will send Soul Douluo or even Title Douluo to help you. Moreover, the Martial Soul Hall has the most comprehensive information in the whole continent, which can match different soul rings according to your martial soul characteristics to achieve the maximum effect, which is far from being achieved elsewhere. Although your martial soul is a wooden gun with low attack power, its cost is definitely very low. This can help you specifically capture corresponding soul beasts based on this characteristic, enhance your characteristics, and give you sustained attacks. 1,000 or 100 attacks will consume the opponent. I can only attack once. Zhou Shan interrupted Qin Zian as he talked incessantly about the benefits of the martial soul hall. Well, what did you say? My martial soul can only attack once. Upon hearing these words, Qin Zian frowned deeply. Why? It will explode and can only attack once. Zhou Shan answered Qin Zian expressionlessly. Wooden guns have low attack power and can only attack once. Even if they self-destruct, how much attack power can they increase? We can only attack once, even if we spend a lot of resources cultivating him, the result is that we can only attack once. Even if we cultivate him to become a title Douluo, what would happen? It's called a one-hit Douluo, which requires a lot of resources and can only be attacked once. If we really call him back, I will be laughed at by others. Qin Zian's face twisted at the thought of this. Pop. Qin Zian patted his forehead with one hand and covered his face, saying. Another useless martial soul, 3 strange martial souls in a row, with such high soul power and mediocre ability. Can't you 3 be one family? We all have the surname Zhou. We are from Zhoujia village. Zhou Shan interjected coldly. Upon hearing these words, Qin Zian put down his hand expressionlessly and picked up his backpack. Putting away the crystal ball and black stone, he walked out without looking back. Director Qin. How is the child situation this year? Director Qin. Director Qin. Director Qin. Director Qin. Qin Zian ignored Shi Eru's questions and walked over expressionless, then walked straight to the carriage without looking back. After getting on the carriage, it was like setting off towards Soto City. And here, Shi Eru also frowned and quickly entered the house. When he saw Tuesday, he walked over and asked. Erlang. What's wrong with Deacon Qin? Why did he leave without looking back? I'm not quite sure, maybe I'm too disappointed, right? Said Tuesday Yao after shaking her head. Disappointment. Why are you disappointed? By the way, how is your martial soul awakening? Only 5 of us, including the 3 of us, have soul power, and the 2 of them are innate first-level soul power and innate second-level soul power, respectively. Disappointment may be due to the 3 of us. The 3 of us are innate full soul power, innate 6th-level soul power, and innate 8th-level soul power. Congenital full soul power. Who is it? Hearing this, Shi Eru's eyes widened instantly and he asked with a surprised expression. It's me. Tuesday looked at Shi Eru and replied. Erlang. It's you. That's great. You. No. Erlang, you are born with full soul power, so Qin Zian is disappointed. Shi Eru, who suddenly felt something was wrong, asked. Both Ah Yuan and I have auxiliary martial souls, but their auxiliary abilities are relatively low. Although Ah Shan has innate level 8 soul power and is still a weapon martial soul, he can only attack once, so the Deacon Qin Zian walked out expressionless. Speaking of which, Tuesday casually spread out his hand. It's okay. Anyway, your innate soul power is extremely high, and you are all exceptional geniuses. Shi Eru patted Tuesday's head and comforted him, then looked around at the children and said, "All right. The awakening ceremony has ended, you can all go home now." Upon hearing the words of the village chief Shiru, these children all spoke to him. "Village chief. Goodbye. Goodbye." After waving his hand, Shiru said to Zhou Shan and Zhou Yuan, "Ashen, Ayuan. You guys go back first. Your brother and I have something to say. Uncle Heir, let's go first." After speaking, Zhou Shan and Zhou Yuan walked out of the room. With only next Tuesday and Shiru left in the room, Shiru spoke to Tuesday. "Erlang. Both of us are family friends, you should know." Upon hearing Shiru's words, I nodded on Tuesday. The Shi family brews medicinal herbs, the Zhou family refines medicines, and sells them to the city of Soto. There are several unique medicines in the Zhou family, and their effects are very unique, so there is no need to worry about selling them. But just a year ago, everything was changed, Shiru sighed and said. "Erlang." Shiru took out a box from his arms and handed it to Tuesday. "Uncle Heir, what is this?" "This is the recipe for your Zhou family's potion." Upon hearing this, Tuesday frowned and looked at the box in his hand. The wooden box looked very old and rusty, as if it had not been opened for a long time. "Second uncle. Didn't those prescriptions have been burned down a year ago?" "What was burned is the original, these are all replicas." Shiru looked at this puzzled Tuesday and spoke up. "Erlang, the relationship between our two families is not just about what you imagine. Every 10 years, your family's prescription will be modified based on their experience, and new prescriptions will be added. At this time, the brand new copy of the prescription will be placed in a box and handed over to our Shi family for safekeeping. To prevent any accidents." Shiru, who was speaking here, placed his hands on Tuesday's shoulders and said to him. "Erlang. There's something I haven't told you about this year. Since a year ago, the income of the entire village has greatly decreased. Medicines are not difficult to sell, but medicinal herbs are not. I heard that a question was raised this Tuesday. Uncle Heir. If you have a prescription, you can practice it yourself. Erlang, you have been smart since childhood, and it's normal for you to have some doubts, but you underestimate the relationship between our two families." Shiru smiled and patted Tuesday's head, saying, "I'll bring over the genealogy later, and you'll understand after reading it." I nodded this Tuesday and put away the wooden box in my hand. End of this chapter. Chapter 5, Refining Medicine and the Fire of Samadhi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, Refining Medicine and the Fire of Samadhi. Second brother, you're back. Zhou Yuan looked at Tuesday, who had walked back and walked up to say, "Where's Ashan?" Tuesday looked at Zhou Yuan, puzzled. "Ashen, he's alone behind." Upon hearing Zhou Yuan's words, Tuesday frowned and asked, "What's wrong with him?" After Ashen returned, he went to try out his martial soul and remained dazed afterwards. Upon hearing these words, Tuesday walked straight back and passed through the house to reach the back mountain, where he saw Zhou Shan sitting on a stone in a daze. "Brother." After seeing the approaching Tuesday, Zhou Shan called out, "Brother," and fell silent. "What's wrong?" "Brother. After my martial soul self explodes, it will take 10 hours to recover. Even if it consumes all my soul power, it can only offset it for 4 hours. I can only attack once." Looking at Zhou Shan, whose emotions were somewhat off, he didn't go directly to comfort him on Tuesday. "How is your attack power this time?" After looking left and right, Zhou Shan pursed his lips and pointed to the stone next to him, which was the size of a stone mill. "Can blow up such a big hole." Looking at the stone, Tuesday smiled and said, "Ah Shan. Do you know your attack power? You can instantly kill most soul warriors and soul masters." Upon hearing these words, Zhou Shan was stunned and hesitated as he spoke. But isn't that deacon saying my martial soul attack ability is low? Did he see the power of your attack? On Tuesday, I looked at Zhou Shan and asked a rhetorical question. But even if the attack is high, there is only one chance to attack. If it fails, I will completely lose my attacking ability. At that time, let alone protecting you, I couldn't even protect myself. So train until you won't fail. And who says there's no martial soul? You lose your attack ability. After finishing speaking, Tuesday clapped his hand towards the nearby boulder. With a loud bang. With just a loud bang, the entire boulder split in half, and the two shattered stones were covered in cracks. Zhou Shan stared blankly at the two pieces of gravel, and finally stuttered as he spoke to Tuesday. Brother. Brother. You. How did you do it? Do you think the fist techniques I handed you can only exercise your body, Shan? This is just a palm technique after adding soul power. After you practice those 3 fist techniques, I will teach you specifically. Seeing Zhou Shan nodded quickly, he said to him again. Besides his martial arts skills, Ashen's shortcomings in martial souls can also be compensated for through training. Is your self-destruct controlled by oneself or triggered by conditions? I just threw my martial soul out and exploded after colliding with a boulder, but I seem to be able to sense the wooden spear, Zhou Shan replied after thinking about it. Has your martial soul recovered yet? Zhou Shan extended his right hand and saw a wooden gun in his hand, then said. It has been restored. Tuesday pointed to a piece of land ahead and said to Zhou Shan. You stick the wooden gun in there, then walk towards me until you can't sense it before stopping. Zhou Shan nodded, inserted the wooden gun there, and then walked towards Tuesday. After walking for less than 10 meters, he stopped. Brother. I can't feel it anymore. Walk towards the wooden gun and stop when you can clearly perceive it. Then Zhou Shan walked forward and stopped about 5 meters away from the wooden gun. On Tuesday, he walked up to the stopped Zhou Shan and then spoke up. Now sense your martial soul and control it to explode. Zhou Shan nodded and then closed his eyes to sense the wooden gun, causing it to explode. As time passed, Zhou Shan's frown furrowed, and at that moment, Tuesday felt a wave of fluctuation. Congenital vigorous chi mask. As Tuesday drew a circle with both hands, a transparent chi shield enveloped Tuesday. With a loud bang. Just after applying the innate vigorous chi mask on Tuesday, the wooden gun exploded. The incoming smoke and impact were all blocked outside, and then the smoke dissipated. Tuesday and Zhou Shan stood there unscathed. Brother. How should I train my martial soul deficiency? Zhou Shan quickly asked Tuesday. Based on the current situation, the self-explosion of your martial soul can be controlled, but your control ability is insufficient. It's just 5 meters, and it took you over 30 seconds to make it explode, so your initial training is your control ability. Looking at Zhou Shan who wanted to continue asking, Tuesday waved his hand and said. Let me think about the method first, and I'll talk to you after I go back. Zhou Shan nodded when he heard these words. Yun, does your martial soul only have flying ability? Tuesday turned to Zhou Yuan and said. Second brother. Besides flying, there can also be some changes. A bead appeared in Zhou Yuan's hand, sometimes getting bigger, sometimes getting smaller, sometimes becoming limp like mud, and then suddenly returning to its original shape with a shiny luster, looking very hard. Second brother, it can still become like this. The beads in Zhou Yuan's hand suddenly grew larger and spread out to form a transparent circular light mask. Then the ball of light enveloped Zhou Yuan and slowly flew with him, just over a meter above the ground before falling off in just 2 seconds. With a splash. I came over on Tuesday and helped Zhou Yuan, then said to him. Are you okay? It's okay, second brother. After confirming that Zhou Yuan is fine, Tuesday said to the two of them. Let's go. Let's go back first, and after we go back, we'll tell you the training methods. The two of them nodded this week and then followed Tuesday back. Walking, Tuesday suddenly spoke up. Ian, Uncle Air asked me to ask if you two are willing to go to the Junior Soul Academy in Soto City, and the cost will be borne by the village. Brother, what about you? Zhou Shan asked without hesitation. Me. I'm not going. Tuesday shook his head and said. Why? Brother. Because of my abilities and ambitions, being in the college is just a waste of time. Brother, we're not going, we'll follow you, the two of them said without thinking when they heard Tuesday's words. Following me will be very tiring, even painful. You need to think carefully. Stopped on Tuesday and said to the two of them. Brother, we're not afraid. Okay, let's go back first. The sun set westward over the mountain, and the sky gradually darkened. At this moment, Zhou Shan was doing his training on a table with 3 equally sized blocks made of wood, stone, and iron. Zhou Shan was pushing wooden blocks with his hands, but this very lightweight wooden block made him sweat profusely when he pushed it. Upon closer inspection, it can be seen that his hand did not touch the wooden block, which is the training method given on Tuesday. Concentrate soul power in your hands, push it at a certain distance from the object, but after successfully pushing it, switch to heavier objects such as wood, stone, and iron. After completing all 3 things, use the same method to pull them back, not with your hands, but with soul power. When all of this can be done, use an auxiliary ruler to hold onto the hand and push and pull it back, making the distance between the object and the hand consistent. However, if this can be achieved, the initial training is completed. Then use your hands to grab the sand from the air and make it reach the desired shape, followed by water flow and finally air. All of these can be achieved, and the training of control is completed. At this point, Zhou Yuan on the other side is also undergoing his own training. The most suitable direction for the development of Zhou Yuan's martial soul should be the control system. The light ball that envelopes a person can be controlled by Zhou Shan to evade attacks when teammates have not detected enemy ambushes or are unable to exert force and are deeply in danger. In order to control one's martial soul more freely, the training method given on Tuesday is to draw a picture in the air with beads, but this picture is 3-dimensional. First, use 10 beads to draw a simple pattern. Then, the pattern becomes increasingly difficult. When the most difficult pattern can also be drawn, separate 1 bead and draw a simple pattern next to it, keeping the original pattern unchanged. The new pattern gradually becomes difficult, and when the most difficult thing comes, another bead is separated, and so on. When all 10 of the most difficult patterns are drawn simultaneously, the training is completed. In the innermost room, Tuesday sat in front of a copper pot, carefully sensing the medicinal herbs inside with soul power. If the water temperature in the copper pot was too high, it would reduce the fire, and if it was too low, it would increase the fire. As time went by, more and more medicinal herbs were added inside. After the last medicinal herb was placed in a copper pot, Tuesday carefully sensed the fire and constantly changed the wood fire in his palm. At a certain moment, the medicinal herbs in the copper pot suddenly changed, and they began to slowly melt, causing the water in the entire copper pot to become sticky and the color to turn blue. After all the medicinal herbs melted, the detergent was refined. On Tuesday, I packed the medicine and placed it on the table next to me. The table was covered with medicine, but most of it was blue and red. These 2 types of potions are respectively cleansing potions and bone-forging potions, and their effects are unique to the Zhou family, just like their names. And the other hemostatic and detoxifying drugs are also available elsewhere. After finishing the last medicinal herb, Tuesday muttered to himself as he looked at the herbs he had prepared. With my innate realm and the wood fire in the Samadhi true fire, refining these potions is as easy as a palm. However, these 2 types of potions can only enhance bones and organs. If we take them as a reference and develop potions for muscles, brain, and other parts of the human body, it should greatly increase the limit of absorption of Soul Ring's lifespan. Unfortunately, my innate state makes these potions have little effect on me. But with my strength, a century-old soul beast can still be dealt with, and a millennium-old soul beast, I have no ability to kill it. It seems that I have to rely on it. On Tuesday, I looked at the fire in the wood and the fire in the stone in my hand. I have trained the Samadhi true fire into the Samadhi, only the aerial fire, which my body cannot bear without training. However, now that I have reached the innate realm, I should be able to practice the aerial fire formed by thunder striking the air. Fire within a stone can scare away 1,000-year-old soul beast. As long as it is refined into Samadhi true fire, even 1,000-year-old soul beast should be directly scared away. At that time, my safety can be guaranteed, and I can hunt soul beasts with peace of mind. On Tuesday, he put away the flames in his hand and stood up to look towards the direction of the starry forest. Tomorrow. Go collect the aerial fire. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Refining of Samadhi True Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The refining of Samadhi True Fire. However, my martial soul strength should not have reached its limit yet. I wonder if it can become innate level 20 after strengthening. On Tuesday, with a thought movement, the power of Xiaoyuan in the boundary monument entered the body and strengthened the martial soul. As soon as the power of Xiaoyuan entered the body, the two martial souls emitted a strong attraction, and a continuous stream of the power of the original source was sucked in by the two martial souls. And they also undergo transformation with the absorption of power. As time goes on, the speed at which Linglong Pagoda absorbs the power of its origin gradually slows down, and its transformation is also gradually completed. At this point, only half of Xiaoyuan's original power has been consumed, and the remaining power is continuously absorbed by Lingbao Gourd. Linglong Pagoda. Pagoda space, mist, swallowing spirit, melting spirit, pregnant spirit. There are two additional labels. On Tuesday, I sensed that a space had been nurtured in the Linglong Pagoda, which was exactly opposite to the space of the Lingbao Gourd and would not increase in size with the increase of soul power. But for every additional soul ring, a space will be generated based on the quality of the soul ring, and this initial space will also change according to the quality of the obtained soul ring. Just as I was thinking about it, the Lingbao Gourd absorbed the last bit of its original power and just reached its limit. Lingbao Hulu. Hulu space, nurturing Lingbao, 9 palace grid, swallowing spirit, melting spirit, nurturing spirit, absorption, digestion, and growth. There are 7 additional tags, among which, except for the 9 palace grid, all have a certain level of growth in literal terms. In addition, it is the second martial soul. With the special nature of my martial soul, it is a spiritual treasure formed by 9 soul rings with a minimum age of 100,000 years, combined with the growth potential of these 6 labels. Thinking of this Tuesday, his face was filled with uncontrollable excitement, and the first thing that came to his mind when he obtained this martial soul was the Lingbao. Slaying immortal flying dagger. Even a spiritual treasure formed with a 100,000-year soul ring cannot reach the true power of the slaying immortal flying dagger in Liu Ye's hand, but with these growth potential, one day it can surpass it. The next morning, the sky was dark and gloomy, with dark clouds covering the earth and faint thunder coming out. Tuesday walked out of the house and looked at the weather, thinking to himself. This weather. It's perfect for me to collect aerial fires. On Tuesday, when I returned to the house, I told Zhou Shan and the others that I wouldn't come back for dinner, and in the end, I set off straight towards the forest. Although it is a forest, there are also some hills in it. After a period of hard work, I climbed to the highest hill nearby on Tuesday and stood at the top of the mountain to look at the sky. After checking the surroundings again, he sat cross-legged and began collecting the power of thunder and fire. As the collection began, the thunder in the sky gradually grew louder, and the thunder began to strike the sky. Then, the power of the lightning was sucked into Tuesday's body. The numbing and burning power of thunder and fire constantly invades the body, causing damage to the body. Meanwhile, the wood fire repairs these subtle injuries in the body, and then under the stimulation of the thunder, the body radiates new life. Before reaching the innate realm, the recovery ability of wood fire could not keep up with the speed of destruction, and the power of thunder was also unable to rejuvenate the body due to its weakness. And now all of these are progressing smoothly. With the passage of time, the power of thunder in the sky is gradually being released, and the cultivation of aerial fire is also about to be completed. Just as the dark clouds were about to disperse, the aerial fire cultivation was completed. Tuesday took a long breath and had been enduring the strange sensation in his body since the collection began. Although he didn't have the same strong pain as before, these subtle sensations still made Tuesday feel uncomfortable all over. The Samadhi true fire has finally been cultivated. Tuesday reached out his hand and the three flames in his hand spun, gradually merging together. At the moment when the fusion was completed, the power of the flame increased by leaps and bounds, and its deterrent power could deter the soul beasts that have been around for thousands of years. The air fire, representing the majesty of heaven, the heavy stone fire of the earth, and the fire of all living beings' lives, even the eternal soul beasts must be burned alive. Tuesday smiled as he looked at the flames in his hand. And my imagination is not just about these, Samadhi true fire, there are many versions. The Samadhi true fire is composed of the desire fire in the eyes, nose, and mouth. The heart fire of the heart, the essence fire of the kidneys, and the chi fire of the bladder are the Samadhi true fire composed of these three flavors. The Samadhi true fire is planted by the essence chi and spirit three fire group. On Tuesday, he collected all the Samadhi true fire and stood up, watching the gradually dispersing dark clouds. When I complete the cultivation of all these Samadhi true fires, and then use world consciousness as the fire of heaven, the core of the planet as the fire of earth, and the soul of all things as the fire of man, this is the Samadhi true fire that I cultivate. Even the world can easily burn out. When the cultivation is completed, change your name to Sankai Divine Fire. On Tuesday, he looked up at the distant starry forest, and the dark clouds in the sky completely dispersed, revealing sunlight. Then he ran towards the direction of the starry forest. Choosing a day is better than colliding with it. On Tuesday, prepare to obtain your first soul ring. In the dimly lit forest, it was difficult for the light to shine in, but Tuesday had no impact on the high-speed progress. Suddenly, I noticed that the terrain in front of me was higher, and I turned around to move in that direction. The terrain gradually increased, and more sunlight came in. Until a valley appeared in the highest part of the terrain ahead, the entire valley was illuminated by the sun, and the mist filled it like a fairyland. This valley is so beautiful. After letting out a sigh on Tuesday, he ran towards the valley. But just as he entered the valley, he clearly felt a strange feeling, and then somehow ran to the side of the valley. Tuesday turned back to look at the valley and frowned deeply. This valley is an illusion. It's not even within the scope of the starry forest, and coupled with my perception of the unity of heaven and humanity, I haven't sensed any danger. Thinking of this, Tuesday did not hesitate and continued walking towards the valley, when that strange feeling arrived. Tuesday closed his eyes and, relying on the perception of the unity of heaven and humanity, walked forward in a changing direction. Suddenly, the strange feeling disappeared as he walked forward. Tuesday, who opened his eyes, saw a fairyland. Water mist shrouded the entire valley on both sides of the stone walls, and the protruding walls appeared faintly. The earth was covered with plants, and a stream divided the entire valley until it reached a cave. And until now, something was confirmed on Tuesday. I've been feeling strange since just now. I seem to be running a bit faster on Sunday, and after entering, my invisible speed is noticeably much faster than outside. On Tuesday, I observed the terrain of the entire valley and confirmed it. It should be a congenital formation similar to the gathering spirit formation, combined with the effect of the confusing direction outside, which is actually a good place for seclusion. Then he carefully observed the entire valley, the rocks on both sides, the grasslands in the valley, and the small stream. Unfortunately, except for the more fertile grasslands, there was no other harvest. There's only this cave left. Tuesday looked towards the cave. Then he walked towards the cave, stood in front of it, looked at the pitch-black cave, sensed for a while, and walked in. As the cave continued to deepen, it gradually narrowed. Although the entrance to the cave was large, it became very narrow after walking a few tens of meters inside. In addition, this river divided the entire cave in half. As I walked, I stopped on Tuesday and saw a pool at the forefront of the stream. Inside the pool, there was a huge crack on the wall of the cave, about half a meter wide. A drop of milky white water slowly fell from the crack, and on Tuesday, I jumped and grabbed the crack to look inside. I saw that it was covered with stone pillars, and above this crack was a huge stone pillar, slowly dripping a milky white liquid. After asking a question, Tuesday looked at the traces of the cracks. From the traces of this crack, it appears that it was not long ago when the powerful energy of the Earth's core milk produced this treasure land. No. From the valley to the cave, my speed is still so fast. If it's the energy of the Earth's heart milk, it's impossible for it to remain unchanged. It should be a sudden change in the terrain, combined with the powerful energy of the Earth's heart milk, which activates the gathering spirit formation formed by the terrain. On Tuesday, I jumped back and walked out of the cave to look at the entire valley. If there's enough time. This place will also be like the Ice and Fire 2 Eyes, right? It's covered with fairy grass. Let's treat this as a secret base for cultivation. When the number of people gathers, the effect of cultivation here should be comparable to that of a simulated training ground. After taking a glance at the entire valley on Tuesday, I set off towards the outside of the valley and felt a strange sensation before arriving outside. After looking at the direction of the entire valley and remembering its location, we set off towards the starry forest. As we walked, we started to slow down on Tuesday, and our speed became more cautious because from here on, most of the people living are Millennium Soul Beasts. And Tuesday's goal is to live here as a century-old soul beast, because most of the century-old soul beasts that can live here are extremely powerful. Their races are all extremely powerful, and they are also soul beasts that have been around for nearly 1,000 years, dating back to 800 or 900 years. The optimal configuration for the first soul ring is over 400 years, but my physical strength is far stronger than that of an ordinary person. Coupled with the enhancement of my innate realm, my body can smash rocks and break giant trees. But although the strength of the meridians is stronger than that of ordinary people, it is not too exaggerated. Tuesday cautiously guarded his surroundings. So on Tuesday, I chose a century-old soul beast that is close to a millennium old, because it is uncertain whether the millennium-old soul beast will cause some damage to my body. As someone with a second martial soul, I don't have to try any dangerous methods at all. The most important thing is the second martial soul. Just choose some soul rings that are close to my own ability limit. Even so, my soul ring has a much longer lifespan than those geniuses. Without any accidents, either the third or fourth soul ring can be a perpetual soul ring. On Tuesday, I suddenly stopped and looked at the forest ahead. Suddenly, a black shadow flew out of a tree and attacked Tuesday. Bang! On Tuesday, a big tombstone maker took a photo of the shadow and flew it out. After spinning on the ground a few times, the shadow got up. A huge black steel centipede appeared in front of Tuesday. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Satisfied Soul Beast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Satisfied Soul Beast, Black Steel Centipede. 1,300 years old, steel helmet and iron armor, highly poisonous. On Tuesday, feeling a bit hot in his hands, he thought with joy. Fortunately, after training as a great steel bearer, he was transformed to possess the ability to isolate toxins. After all, you can tell from the original work that there are too many items related to poison on the mainland, and there are also poisonous Douluo and Tang San. So after cultivating the Great Monument Hand, it was renovated on Tuesday to have the ability to isolate toxins similar to Xuanyu Hand. Whoosh! This black centipede rushed towards Tuesday. Although it had many feet, its speed was not fast, and Tuesday easily avoided it. Boom! The black centipede hit the tree with one head, directly breaking the entire tree. The hit area emitted bursts of smoke and was corroded into pits. Tear it apart. What strong corrosiveness, said Tuesday, looking at the corroded tree. Not good. There's too much noise. On Tuesday, he looked at the collapsed tree and the startled birds and animals. Jumping up a tree one by one, using both feet to jump onto another tree and running towards the distance. Boom! 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 But the black centipede chased relentlessly, knocking down one big tree after another. Tuesday frowned as he listened to the commotion behind him, thinking with some confusion. Why is this guy relentlessly chasing after me? No way, if this continues, there will be even more noise. This guy's defense is too high, we need to find its weak position to strike. Then he jumped off the tree and stood on the ground, dodging the black centipede on his side. But the black centipede's body rolled up, rubbing against the ground and charging towards Tuesday. Tear it apart. Thorn it. Tuesday frowned and listened to the piercing sound, quietly retreating to avoid the rushing centipede. Although the centipede's trajectory could be seen clearly and avoided, the details on its body could not be seen clearly. It seems that we need a divine ability about the eyes. Tang San's configuration is just right. The body method for evading attacks. Ghost Shadow Mist, the training method for fixed point defense. Xuanyu Hand, the training method for observing enemies. Purple Extreme Magic Eyes, and the final solution for attacking hidden weapons. Attacking me with Samadhi True Fire requires body and eye techniques, but Tang San's approach is completely based on the assassin's positioning, which is different from mine. For me, the body method should be more about running away rather than avoiding attacks. After all, my positioning should be a mage. On Tuesday, as he watched the black centipede charging towards him again, he threw a big tombstone on his side. Boom! The black centipede was directly hit on the ground, and during a pause of 1 or 2 seconds, Tuesday observed the entire centipede. The body of a centipede is segmented, with a total of 130 segments. 10 segments serve as a dividing line, with centipede feet 2 or 3 times larger on both sides. However, due to their larger size, the gaps between the joints are also larger. Just as the black centipede charged over again, Tuesday hit it to the ground and took a step forward, chopping its hand like a knife towards the larger joint. The Bei Show. On Tuesday, with the other hand, a big tombstone player flicked the tail of the centipede away. Click. The centipede's leg broke off directly, and the intense pain made the centipede ball into a ball, quickly rolling back. Tuesday shook off his hot hands and jumped towards the distance. Humph, it finally subsided. Tuesday let out a cold snort, feeling that there was no sound coming from behind. After getting away from that place, jump down and walk in another direction. As we were walking, there was another commotion and the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Tuesday slowed down his pace and slowly approached to observe ahead. I saw a soul beast ahead that looked like a tiger, but with sharp horns on its head, gnawing on a huge rhinoceros. The horns on its head emitted light, like gemstones. Wind and thunder roar. 842 AD, storm, thunder, mountain roar. Running beast. In 1842, with infinite power, it was launched with heavy armor. There didn't seem to be any movement just now. The 800-year-old soul beast instantly killed the 1800-year-old. Just as Tuesday was thinking to himself, the thunderous wind looked up in the direction of Tuesday. After a pause of 1 second, as if sensing something, a flash of lightning flashed through, and the head of the attacking beast was cut off before picking up the remaining body. The strong wind on the back surged into a pair of wings, and in an instant, it flew up and ran towards the distance. Did that guy perceive anything? Thunder. Fire in the air. It's still Samadhi true fire. Looking at the head left in the open space, Tuesday thought with some surprise. Leaving a head here, does a century-old soul beast have such high intelligence? On Tuesday, he stepped forward and placed his head in the space, then continued to search for the soul beast that suited him. On Tuesday, I saw a stream and walked in the direction, passing through a jungle. Suddenly, I saw a bright ahead. At the same time, a thunderous sound came, revealing a small waterfall. Below the waterfall was a huge pool, and the stream also flowed down from here. On Tuesday, I walked into and looked at this big pool, walked around, and observed it. Basically, it can be concluded that there is a big guy inside, but it's unclear whether it's a millennium soul beast or a century-old soul beast. Tuesday leaned on his chin and thought for a moment before laughing. He walked over to a rock the size of a basketball, with a hint of fire in his hand. After being attached to the stone, it was thrown into the pool and immediately hid in the nearby jungle, observing the entire water surface. However, in just a few seconds, a large number of bubbles emerged from the water, followed by a sharp-edged snake head leaping out. It had fins like things on both sides of its back, but it was very huge, like wings. Bang! The basketball-sized stone was directly thrown out and smashed into the body of a giant tree. Then he rose up and looked around before slowly falling into the water. At this time, Tuesday also received the information he wanted to know. Snake ringing. In 989, the sound was like a bell, the water was clear, and the drought came. We can occupy such a large area in 900 years, and there is also a drought. Drought is a disaster. This intensity is completely suitable. Tuesday nodded very satisfied. Then he continued to look for a basketball-sized stone next to him, attached to the scent of fire within the stone, and threw it into the pool before hiding. But within 2 seconds, the snake charged out again and threw the stone out. The roaring snake makes a hissing sound, which spreads out as if venting its dissatisfaction. After hearing this sound on Tuesday, I immediately felt something was wrong, and a strong sense of dizziness surged up. Tuesday stabilized his figure and waited quietly. After a while, the snake slowly returned to the pool. 10 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, the whistling snake slowly poked its head out again, revealing only a small half of its head. It looked around and then went back. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. First Soul Ring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 First Soul Ring. Then on Tuesday, the old trick was repeated and the stone was thrown into the pool. 1 second later, the roaring snake suddenly charged out again, and the raging water vapor filled the air. The roar of distance was emitted, and its tail frantically patted the water surface. Boom! 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 10 minutes later, the chirping snake quieted down and retreated into the water. Tuesday waited quietly in the distance for another 10 minutes. Hiding in a distant place, a big tombstone maker slapped the stone out. After crossing a curve, it landed steadily in the pool, and in less than a second, the roaring snake rushed out directly. Beside the waterfall, frantically searching for the culprit, the big tree was knocked down and the boulder rolled over. Unfortunately, Tuesday had already dodged far away. For a whole half hour, the snake finally returned to the pool, and at this moment, Tuesday, who was far away, slowly walked towards the pool. I should be very angry now. As soon as I find out, I will rush out of the deep pool. On Tuesday, he picked up another stone and walked towards the pool. As he was about to approach the pool, he stopped and felt the smell of fire within the stone in his hand. However, suddenly a sense of danger came. Boom! A huge splash of water erupted from the deep pool, and a black shadow rushed towards Tuesday at an extremely fast speed, but was dodged by Tuesday. At the moment when the sense of danger approached, Tuesday dodged sideways, and then a dark shadow rushed over. It turned out that the snake had been quietly waiting under the pool. The roaring snake let out an angry hissing sound, and its two eyes were filled with fierce gaze, staring at Tuesday. Its body slowly rose and stared at Tuesday in a zigzag shape. Upon seeing this scene on Tuesday, he immediately ran sideways and was chased by a piercing snake, only to be dodged by Tuesday. The speed on Tuesday is not much different from that of the Naruto, but the perception of human unity on Tuesday can often be perceived as a threat first, thus avoiding the attacks of the Naruto. Suddenly, a huge water column attacked Tuesday's back, only to be dodged by Tuesday, who had sensed danger first. The water column pierced through and created a deep pit on the ground. Subsequently, the mist filled the air, trying to envelop Tuesday and make him lose his direction. Unfortunately, on Tuesday, even with closed eyes, one can still perceive the source of danger in the perception of heaven and humanity. It can also generate water mist. This ability is good. Tuesday, dodging the attack, was like dancing on the tip of a knife, but even so, he still had the ability to think about other things. Just ran like this, far away from the pool, to a nearby place with no water source, and then stopped. The last one dodged the attack sideways, and a large tombstone hit the whistling snake's chin. Woo 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 woo. The roaring snake made an unknown sound, and the mist spreading around began to create one vortex after another. On Tuesday, I could feel the power of these eddies pulling on my body and smiled as I looked at the roaring snake. You're quite clever, this chirping snake. Unfortunately, this power is too small. Then on Tuesday, he started running. After the snake saw it, a divine dragon swung its tail and pulled towards Tuesday, but unfortunately did not hit it. Tuesday, who was first perceived, dodged it. After getting close on Tuesday, he hit a big tombstone directly at the 7-inch mark of the whistling snake. On Tuesday, when he wanted to do it again, the snake's tail wrapped around its body and blocked it for 7 inches, causing a jet of water to spray from its mouth. The water column directly interrupted a giant tree behind Tuesday, and a loud sound came out. Not good, it's been dragging on for too long. Tuesday thought with a frown as he listened to the voice. This is the roaring snake that stands up again, retracting the mist that permeates the surroundings and quietly watching Tuesday. Do you have a big move? I was walking around on Tuesday, looking for an opportunity to go up and kill it. I suddenly felt something strange around me. The sound disappeared, and Tuesday felt a dry feeling. The trees began to turn yellow, and the blue-silver grass on the ground withered. On Tuesday, it was discovered that the swollen chin of the snake had been restored. Absorb all the moisture around and restore yourself. If your strength is strong, then wherever you go, it's like a drought. Quick battle, quick decision. We can't procrastinate. Then, a sudden advance, rushed forward to avoid the drawn tail, and drew a circle with both hands. Congenital vigorous chi mask. The circular vigorous chi shield blocked the jet of water, with a huge force pushing Tuesday backwards. Unfortunately, although the impact of this water column was huge, it was still blocked by Tuesday's continuous soul power. The water column suddenly disappeared, and the snake's body rolled up and charged towards it. Its tail directly wrapped around Tuesday, and a huge force oppressed Tuesday. At this time, Tuesday was in crisis, but it was also the crisis of this ringing snake. The left hand, which ignited the fire within the stone, instantly penetrated the body of the snake. The intense pain caused the snake to release its entanglement around Tuesday's body. But trying to get rid of Tuesday's snake, it didn't go as planned. It was pulled over directly by Tuesday, and the other hand also ignited a fire in the stone that ran through its head. This fatal injury directly caused the viper to fall to the ground, completely ending its life. At this moment, Tuesday also breathed a sigh of relief, with a fire in the wood in his hand, absorbing the vitality of the surrounding plants and repairing his own damage. As the green light slowly merged and absorbed into the wood, it transformed into pure vitality, and Tuesday's body was gradually repaired. After recovering from the injury, Tuesday looked ahead at the roaring snake and saw a yellow soul ring rising from its massive body. On Tuesday, I sat cross-legged and saw 3 flavors of real fire in my hand. I placed this real fire next to me. Then he took a deep breath and began to absorb the centennial soul ring. The soul ring flew over and landed on Tuesday's head. With his eyes closed, Tuesday felt a large surge of soul power emerging from his body. Although the raging soul power fills the body, the internal circulation established by the innate realm continuously decomposes the impact of these soul powers, and the resilient meridians also make these soul powers nowhere to hide. As time passed, all the soul power was absorbed, and the soul ring was also sucked into Tuesday's body. On Tuesday, when he opened his eyes, he suddenly widened his eyes and looked up at the corpse of the snake. A glowing bone floats on the corpse, segment by segment. Soul bone. Does this guy hate me so much? Watching the soul bone, Tuesday quickly stepped forward to summon the Linglong Pagoda, and received this soul bone into the space. At the same time, he also received the entire body of the ringing snake into the space. Mist water, a large mist mixed with water mist spread out, and this was the first soul ring, which changed the Linglong Pagoda. It was like Tang San's blue-silver grass's first soul ring, in addition to his skills, also brought toxicity to his blue-silver grass. The same principle applies to the fog of the martial soul on Tuesday. As for the first soul skill of the martial soul, what is it? Roaring snake. As the words fell, a yellow soul ring rose and a roaring snake appeared in front of Tuesday. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Chiming Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Chiming Snake. This whistling snake is 9 meters long, and it doesn't look much different from the snake just now. It's just fluorescent all around. As soon as the snake saw Tuesday, it roared and rushed over, but just a few steps forward, it froze in place. On Tuesday, he walked up and touched the head of the snake, but his palm did not directly pass through its head. A warm and cool feeling came from the place where his hand touched it. It is not a pure soul body, with the consciousness of self in life, and can fight alone. Tuesday touched the head of the snake and looked at its fierce gaze. And as long as my self-awareness is complete, I can increase my lifespan over time, which means that 11 years later, my first soul ring will be 1,000 years old. The combination of swallowing spirit, melting spirit, and pregnant spirit is so incredible. Unfortunately, the only flaw is the essence. Although it can still be resurrected after death, it will erode the consciousness of the viper. This powerful ability made Tuesday think of his second martial soul, which also has these 3 combinatorial labels, and also has 3 other combinatorial labels. Absorption, digestion, growth. I don't know what kind of abilities these 3 combined labels possess. Tuesday turned around and looked at the roaring snake still glaring fiercely at him, placing his hand in front of it. Boom! A cloud of Samadhi true fire erupted from the palm of the hand, and in an instant, the pupils of the snake shrank to the size of a needle tip, emitting a slight tremble throughout its body. On Tuesday, I watched the trembling snake in place and unlocked its restrictions. The snake, who had been released from its restrictions, stood still and looked at Tuesday before slowly bending down and lying on the ground. Watching the submissive serpent, Tuesday waved his hand and received it inside the pagoda, then summoned his true combat state, the mist clone. Serpent. After obtaining the soul ring on Tuesday, the summoned snake is its own body. Although this soul body does not require the consumption of Tuesday's soul power, it will wear down its will once it dies. When there are too many deaths and the will completely dies, the ability to grow will be lost, and it will take 10, 100, or even 1,000 years for consciousness to be nurtured again before this growth ability can be restored. But this kind of mist clone is different. Even if you die multiple times, it has no effect on the consciousness of the main body, and the flaw is that your strength is only 70.8% of the main body, and it will consume Tuesday's soul power. The summoned snake is 7 meters long and its edges are shrouded in mist. Tuesday is sensing the consumed soul power carefully beside it. In terms of such consumption, even adding 2 or 3 more would only be on par with my recovery ability. Tuesday held the Linglong Pagoda in his left hand and aimed his right hand ahead. The mist that permeated the surroundings was instantly sucked into his body, and then the trees around him began to wither and turn yellow, and the air became dry. As long as I hold the pagoda in my hand, I can use the special abilities of soul beasts in the soul ring. On Tuesday, feeling the warmth and coolness coming from within, the fatigue of the body was relieved, the recovery ability of the body was enhanced, and even the recovery of soul power was increased. It's really interesting. If all 9 soul beasts' special abilities are to enhance their bodies, when others think my martial soul is a summoning ability, but when they get close, I slap them to death. Just as Tuesday was about to burst into laughter, a fierce roar suddenly came from afar. Roar! Roar! On Tuesday, with a wave of his right hand, the snake turned into smoke, collected its martial soul, and instantly ran towards the outside of the starry forest. In the secret valley, Tuesday stood in front of a big tree and summoned the exquisite pagoda. Mist. Water. As the words fell, mist mixed with water mist enveloped the space, and Tuesday reached out his hand to the big tree. The mist formed a vortex and spun around the big tree, creating a pulling force that caused the fragile branches on the tree to break and be scraped out, resulting in a large number of leaves being pulled down. At this moment, a small vortex appeared in front of Tuesday's finger, and a droplet of water condensed from the vortex and was directly emitted. Bang! The water droplet hit the trunk of the tree, causing it to be pierced with a finger hole. Raising the palm and facing the tree trunk, a vortex formed by water mist appeared in the palm, and small water droplets spun wildly in the mist before forming a cylindrical emission. With a loud bang, the mist hit the tree trunk, and 2/3 of the half-meter thick trunk was directly pierced through. The fist of this deep hole was thick and thin, and the surface was extremely smooth. On Tuesday, I walked up to observe. Good attack power, let's call this move Water Drop Cannon in the future. After touching the smooth deep hole on Tuesday, I reached out my right hand and held it down. A large puddle of water mist condensed in my hand, and then spun wildly to form a flat disc. Water droplets spun wildly in it, creating cutting force. Then on Tuesday, the disc slowly extended towards the tree trunk, causing a violent friction sound. The entire tree trunk was slowly cut, 1/3 or 2/3, and after a while, the entire tree trunk was directly cut off. Watching the tree trunk fall to the ground with a bang, Tuesday reached out to embrace the sky with both hands. The mist formed a vortex centered around Tuesday, which spun wildly and slowly expanded. The expanding vortex touched the trunk of the tree, and the part of the trunk that came into contact was directly shattered. Water droplets and water droplet cannons were occasionally fired from the vortex, wearing everything within their range. The surface of the vortex occasionally emitted a halo-like aura, dividing everything it touched in half. Then, with a loud bang, the entire vortex erupted, pushing everything within 1 meter of Tuesday's surroundings away. In just 3 seconds, the trunk of the tree was destroyed and shattered, and grass and trees flew horizontally on the ground. Tuesday's feet took on a circular shape, and marks appeared on the surrounding land. The attack power is pretty good, with long-range common attacks, powerful single-point skills, armor-breaking ability, and great moves. Tuesday looked around and saw the damage caused. During the battle, summon the serpent to fight in the front row. I use attacks from the back to support and restrain it. If it gets close to me, use a big move to push it away. If he still doesn't know what to do and insists on fighting close to me, my big tombstone can also teach him how to be a good person. On Tuesday, as he watched his right hand turn bluish-black, he swung a handprint from left to right towards the bottom and slapped it with soul power. Bang! I saw a watermelon-sized palm print directly captured on the ground, which was the power of soul power condensed from the body when it broke through the innate realm on Tuesday. At that time, although I broke through the innate realm and gained various abilities, the total amount of soul power did not increase. Using this ability instantly consumed too much, which would interrupt the coherence of my attacks, so I never used it. But now it's different. After obtaining the first soul ring, Tuesday's soul power level has instantly reached level 17. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The characteristics of martial souls and the method of practicing eyes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The characteristics of martial souls and the method of practicing eyes. Tuesday stood there carefully sensing his soul power, and after obtaining the soul ring, he felt a strange feeling. The growth rate of soul power far exceeded Tuesday's expectations. Although the Zhou Tian Qi cultivation method in the innate realm can slowly and automatically cultivate on its own anytime and anywhere, the speed of cultivation now far exceeds Tuesday's expectations. On Tuesday, he sat cross-legged and stopped the operation of Zhou Tian's Qi cultivation method for the first time after breaking through. However, after a period of time, he could still feel the slow increase in soul power. On Tuesday, following the soul power induction, I discovered that the root cause was my own martial soul, the Linglong Pagoda. Continuing along with perception, we arrived at the first space of the first soul ring of the pagoda and sensed the chirping snake inside. I see. Although the viper has its own consciousness and appears to be an individual, it is actually just my soul ring. It is a part of my exquisite pagoda system, and its self-growth is also the growth of my martial soul. Its growth also drives my soul power to increase. If I create a cultivation method suitable for soul beasts, wouldn't I be driven by dual cores? No. It's an 11-core driver. Tuesday's lips curled up and he couldn't help but laugh. After looking at the sky last night, I suppressed my excitement and walked towards the outside of the valley. It's getting late. Tuesday, who was running wildly in the forest, finally rushed back to the village before the sky turned dark. After slowing down, he walked towards his home. As soon as I approached the yard, I saw Sher Eru walking back and forth in front of the door. After seeing Tuesday, I quickly ran over and grabbed him, then said, "Where did you go? Did you go hunting soul beasts yourself? Do you know how dangerous the starry forest is? Second uncle. Aren't I here all right? Have you ever hunted the first soul ring?" Looking at the serious Sher Eru, he nodded on Tuesday. Sher Eru let out a deep sigh, and in his hand appeared a long sword with a big head and small body, square in all directions. 3 soul rings were shining on his body, yellow, and 3 yellow soul rings. Erlang. Although your second uncle and my martial soul are just medicine cutters, they are also a 30-level strong attack type soul master. I can deal with most of the century-old soul beasts. Sher Eru withdrew his martial soul and sighed, touching Tuesday's head with his right hand. The age of the soul ring is very important. The first 2 soul rings, preferably 100 years old, although your first soul ring is 10 years old, you can still make up for it later. We still have the chance. Uncle Heir. It's 100 years old. Tuesday interrupted Sher Eru's words. Well, I know 100 years. Sigh. 100 years. Sher Eru widened his eyes and said in shock. Erlang. Yes. Is it true? On Tuesday, he nodded and revealed the centennial soul ring. Erlang, how are you? Sher Eru, who wanted to ask the reason, suddenly stopped and looked at Tuesday as he patted his head and said. Erlang. You have your own ideas and are independent. I won't ask how you did it. But you can't take such a risk. If you die, how will you let me face your parents and grandfather after death? Tuesday nodded and said, Second uncle, I know. Second uncle, come in first. I won't enter the room anymore. I'm here to take you hunting for soul rings. By the way, how much more medicinal herbs do you need to practice your hand? I didn't expect you to have obtained the soul ring. I haven't been back for a day, so little tiger should be thinking of me. I'll go back first and come to see you tomorrow. Eru waved his hand and said. Second uncle. Wait a moment. After speaking, Tuesday ran into the room and after a while, he ran out with a wooden box in his hand. After coming over, he opened it and handed it to Eru, then spoke up. Uncle Air, I have learned all the potions on the prescription. These are the potions I have trained, and I have labeled each bottle with its name written on it. These 2 bottles are cleansing potions and bone forging potions. Uncle, take them for little tiger to use. In 2 years, he will also awaken his martial soul. You've learned it all. Eru said in surprise. Uncle Air. It's all very simple, just learn it. Tuesday's casual remark made Eru's face twitch. Because Eru remembers that when Tuesday's father was a child, he often had to slow down his learning of a certain prescription, which led to his grandfather picking up a vine and pulling out his pants before smoking. Moreover, in the first year of learning how to refine medicine, Tuesday's father exploded with 6 pots and 2 furnaces. Ha ha ha. Eru laughed happily. What's wrong with Uncle Air? Asked Tuesday with some confusion. Feeling happy for your father, do you know what his greatest wish is? Upon hearing Tuesday's question, Tuesday shook his head. It's your talent for refining medicine. Since you were born, he has told me that even if your martial soul and soul power are poor, it doesn't matter. Only your talent for refining medicine, he hopes your talent for refining medicine is the best. I learned more than 10 prescriptions in one day, and there can be no better talent for refining medicine than you. Your father's wish has come true. Eru patted Tuesday's head and said to him. Erlang, I want to tell your aunt this good news. I'll go first. Looking at Uncle Air with tears in his eyes, he nodded on Tuesday. Li Ming has just passed, the sky has just brightened slightly, the sun has just reached the edge, and the moon has not yet set. At this time, the sun and moon are on the same day, and on Tuesday, they are standing on a small mountain peak. Looking up at the sun and moon, the essence of the sun and the radiance of the moon, the power of yin and yang sucked into the eyes, nourishing them. On Tuesday, there was a light shining above the pupils, blocking the original color. This is a divine power that came to mind on Tuesday last month, the sun and moon's eye. This method nourishes the pupils with the power of the sun and moon, and finally transforms into a divine power. There are a total of 5 realms. Now Tuesday is the first level. Dawn Eye. At this time, the decline of the moon at dawn and the rebirth of the sunrise in the east nourish the pupils and enhance the observation ability of the eyes in all directions. As time passed, the moon gradually set and the sun also rose. Tuesday also stopped practicing because if it continued, the extreme yang power of the sun would scorch Tuesday's eyes. As the cultivation stopped, the light emanating from the pupils gradually dissipated, revealing the color of the pupils. One pupil was golden, and the other was silver, forming heterochromatic double pupils. This may be a sequela after cultivation. These heterochromatic double pupils give the already beautiful eyes on Tuesday a captivating power. Tuesday stood up and carefully thought about the loopholes in his own system. Now I have all 3 aspects of attack, defense, and observation, except for body techniques. On Tuesday, as I watched the green ocean swaying in the wind below, I pondered inwardly. Body techniques are nothing more than these 3 aspects. A long-lasting and energy-saving journey, an instant burst of high-speed escape, and avoidance movements during battles. The most suitable attributes should be wind and thunder. Wind and thunder. Wind and thunder roar. On Tuesday, I thought of the wind and thunder roar I had seen a few months ago. With a flash of lightning, I cut off the head of the rhinoceros, and then with such a heavy body, the wind wings spread and flew away. The explosive speed of lightning, moving with the wind, should also be very effortless, but the avoidance movement in combat is also very simple for both attributes. Tuesday nodded and decided to observe more wind and lightning, as well as information on body movements, in the near future. End of this chapter.